people are jumping in, and then we'll pick back up on where we left off last Tuesday. This week we'll be talking about autopilots, and we'll start off kind of the same way we did last week, talking about the product line, and then we'll do questions and answers at the end. And Steph and a couple people here will monitor the chat rooms for me, and we'll try to get your questions either from the chat or at the end, just like we did last week. So we're going to sit tight here for another second, and then we'll get ready to kick it off shortly. All right, so hey, how's everybody doing out there this evening? Everybody good?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, and everybody can hear me okay?
Loud and clear.
All right, we'll go ahead and get started. So this is today's focus. We're going to talk about autopilot. So last week we talked about radar, and we started off the class the same way with comparison to the Lowrance to the SIMRAD product. And I'll kind of go over this again, and then we'll talk about product placement. So for a lot of the Lowrance PROSTAFFers that have taken the plunge here to SIMRAD, if you kind of compare the family across the line, for the hook reveal, we kind of compare that the SIMRAD family to the SIMRAD Cruise. When we look at the Lowrance Elite TI2, which is our better category, that is our SIMRAD Go, which is our 7, 9, and 12. And then the best is on the Lowrance family side, we know it's the HDS Live. And on SIMRAD, it's our Evo 3 and 3S. And as we talked last week, there is one category in the SIMRAD family above the Evo 3S, and that's our NSO series, which comes 16, 19, and 24. But for the majority of the West Marine locations, you're not going to see too much above the Evo 3, Evo 3S. So again, this is our good, better, and best line, is kind of how we promote when we're working with the customer base. If they're looking at one level, we're actually, we're trying to get them into the next level. Well, we discussed it with radar last week, where the SIMRAD Go and the SIMRAD Evo 3 were our two SIMRAD categories that radar was capable. So when having the conversation with our customer over autopilot, right off the bat, as we did last week, we can take the SIMRAD Cruise out of that picture. We know the Cruise is a standalone unit, or is a unit that comes with the skimmer mount transducer, and that's all it will do. Now, as you will see throughout the evening, there is some differences in how we set the autopilot up between a SIMRAD Go and a SIMRAD Evo 3 3S. Yes, the SIMRAD Go can do autopilot. Yes, we can touch the screen. There are different setups with it. When we're based off an Evo 3, I can do NEMA 2000 and 183, where with the SIMRAD Go, I can only do NEMA 2000. So when we start getting into older autopilots, it gets very, very tricky in setting up, and then we get into the control head and everything else. So when we're having that discussion at a West Marine location, and now the autopilot, and the autopilot is the topic that really kind of intimidates everybody. As you guys saw, radar was not really that difficult. Autopilot can be a little intimidating because every boat's different size, where their motors are, etc. So tonight's purpose is to just give you an introduction. We're not going to get into technical, how to set it up, we're basically going to talk about the key selling points and how to discuss with the customer what they're looking for in autopilot. So if a customer says we're an autopilot, obviously we're talking about these two lines right here, the SIMRAD Go and the SIMRAD Evo 3. And then it gets into, where do they want to control the autopilot from the screen or with a controller, which you'll see where we're going to go with that here in a second. SIMRAD autopilots, we've been known for years and for a long time as for our autopilots. You will also see the name on some older products out there, AP1 Roberson. It's a SIMRAD product. There a lot of boats, any size, are running a SIMRAD version autopilot one way or another. There's boats that I've gone to that have our competition for electronics, but are running a SIMRAD autopilot. So the years and years are here in our autopilot setups. So real quick, what is autopilot? Well, autopilot's used for a couple different things. It's used for a heading hold, a course hold. There's a couple things I can do with autopilot. Our customer thinks that he can turn his autopilot on and go to bed and tomorrow morning wake up in the Bahamas. Well, no, there's still need, it's not that good, but there's several things we can do. So if a full integrated autopilot's used for a couple things. One, if I just want to come hands off the wheel for a while, it allows two people to fish where one can come back and help net the fish while we still have somebody, while there's still some control over the boat. Two, we can set a destination and autopilot will go to that destination, or we could set a heading. We want to keep on this current course and lock that heading, and autopilot will do it. Once I'm coming out, if you look at the GPS screen, we're coming out in open water. We can go ahead and set a point and autopilot will hold that course. So there's a couple ways that we can operate autopilot, and we're going to get into them throughout the evening. So if this was your SIMRAD screen here, as we know, we can touch and we can make routes. So you can see that there's a route made already here, and this is our vessel coming out. So once we get onto this route, we can touch the screen and autopilot and will engage. So if we make this route, and then one of the questions will pop up on the screen, do you wish to engage autopilot, yes or no? Yes, it will run this route for us. And every time it gets to one of these destinations, it will trigger an alarm that we have reached that destination. Do you wish to continue? So yes, we can touch the screen and set a bunch of waypoints. We can control from the SIMRAD screen, as you can see here. This is a basic screen where if you notice there's a number 10 and 1 on the left side or the port side, and a 10 and 1 on the right side or the starboard side. This is the same as an autopilot controller, where I can change the heading 10 degrees, 1 degree port, 10 degree, 1 degree starboard. If I touch the S, that will bring up these buttons that you see at the top, where I could go ahead and just hit heading hold, which is autopilot, which means whatever current heading I'm on right now, autopilot would take the boat. So if I was to touch this S, this screen pops up here at the top. I hit auto. This current course we're on, 336, it would hold that course. Then if I needed to make some minor changes, I could come over here to the control knob and I can make some minor changes. I can change it a couple times to the left or to the right. Okay, we do have a quick menu on the left side of the screen, where we can bring autopilot up in any screens, and we can go port and starboard. We can engage and kind of see where we are. So there's a couple ways that we can control. This is a very popular way with us at SIMRAD, is one touch of the screen and controlling the autopilot. If you look down here in the bottom right, this is a AP44, and we're going to get more into this as the night goes on. This is an autopilot control head where I can also control it from this screen also. I can turn that knob, I can set autopilot, and this will always show me the current heading that I'm on. And that's what a lot of our guys are using the autopilot for. You'll see it with a lot of cruisers. They're going on long distance runs. When we're fishing and we hook up, I can do a heading hold. I can come back, help out a little bit, and I know the boat's still kind of on the same heading. I just want to go hands off the wheel for a while. Again, that's what we're using our autopilot setups for. So what makes an autopilot setup? We need the following, and we either have a multifunction device, or we have a control head, or we can have both. See, and we'll discuss this later. But the components of an autopilot are based off of these 4 pictures you see right here. So this is a computer. We call it, you'll hear a slang term called, this is the brain. This is the box that control, this is what all the components of the autopilot hook into, and then this box hooks into the unit. Okay, so this is a brain. Then we have an autopilot pump, a drive unit. This is the pump. It's not the same pump that comes on your hydraulic steering in your boats, and or you may have a cable steer unit, but we need some type of pump to move the motor to the port side, to the starboard side when we engage autopilot. So if I engage autopilot and I want to go 10 degrees, this pump is pumping hydraulic fluid, and that's what's moving either my outboard motors or my rudders to the port or the starboard. I'm going to skip this piece for a second, and then we're coming down to a heading source. Okay, this is our Precision 9. This is a flux, this is a compass. We talked last week about the heading sensor. This is a little bit different. This is a little bit powerful. I need to know true heading, rate of turn, etc. This is a compass that goes down around the water line in the boat somewhere. This piece right here is a rudder feedback sensor. This is not required when we have outboard motors. This is required for any type of motor, what we refer to below deck. So I have a rudder, or I have units where I can't see the outboards. This will always allow the SIMRAD unit or the autopilot unit to know the angle of the rudder. So this is a piece that gets forgotten a lot when we work on motors that are below deck, but it's a piece that's accidentally added in when we're working with outboard motors. Our system builder, when you build an autopilot, it doesn't know if you're doing outboard motors or stern drive or rudder. So it automatically throws that in there. If you're doing outboard boat motors setup, you will not need this piece here. You basically need this one, and this one. Now, there are autopilot systems that you will see that will not have an MFD. They will have these pieces plus this. It's called a standalone autopilot, where basically they're using it for heading hold, and the compass on the boat is giving them their direction. When we try to connect older autopilots to our setup now, or another manufacturer where the customer might want to go with the SIMRAD unit this year, but has another brand autopilot on the boat, and he wants to keep it, there are ways we can keep it, and you will hear us use the term standalone system. So you can sell, it can be a standalone, must have this control head, or we can connect it all into the SIMRAD, or you can have both. And we'll talk about it again here in a second, with a Go unit. A Go unit must have an autopilot control, must have a controller, because we do need to calibrate a standby button. And we'll talk about that more as the night goes on. So there are 3 autopilot setups. We call them NAC, which stands Navico Autopilot Computer. So we have a NAC 1, NAC 2, and NAC 3. In the SIMRAD world, you don't see us use the NAC 1 too terribly much. This is a very popular unit in the Lowrance world with the outboard pilot pack that's out there that sells for $9.99. This is a very good setup if I was doing an aluminum boat like a Lund, or some of the boats that they sell at Bass Pro Shops, those 16s and those 18-footers, where they want to run some of the deep lakes, and it's just for me to go hands off the wheel. Doesn't have all of the autopilot features as we get into the NAC 2 or 3. In the saltwater world, we lean away from this. Again, if I'm more in a Bass Pro Shop, I'm more in them small aluminum boats, this is an easy way to set somebody up for $9.99. But when we start getting out in deep bays and we get into tidal water, wind, strong current, this is not going to be that popular. Mostly it's going to be NAC 2s and NAC 3s. Again, this is very common in a product that we call outboard pilot. I think we sell it still for $9.99 with everything in it, but there is a NAC 1. What you will see the majority of the time on the market is this right here, the NAC 2. So the NAC2 gives us that full autopilot functionality where we can touch the screen. We have all the different screens for no drift, heading, hold, etc. And the number we tend to use is 33 feet. So if we've got a boat under 33 feet and they're not crazy with motors, let's just say it's one motor right now, more than likely we're going to get away with using a NAC2. When we get into twins, that depends upon, and I've got another slide on that, what setup, what is moving to two motors. So if this is a customer that has nothing on the boat, we're not trying to retrofit. So for example, if a customer has another brand of autopilot, a lot of times we can save their pump and maybe their heading sensor if it was 183 or 2000, where we only have to sell the customer a new our Navico autopilot computer. Okay, if they've got nothing on the boat, this is a good setup. Again, 33 feet is kind of what we're looking at. 1 to 2 motors. You know, you get over twins that are 250 and more. You're gonna, yes, because the boat may be under 33 feet, but we may want to move up. But this is a very easy setup. It's all NEMA 2000 and it's simple to install. The plugs go directly in here. There's your power. There's where your pump. If you need the rudder feedback, and then here's where this piece networks right to the back of your SIMRAD unit. Okay, so again, NAC2, just remember 33 feet, one motor, 2. And we'll talk about the pumps here in a second. The NAC3 is for boats that are over 33 feet, or we get more than 2 motors. 2 motors, let's say we're running twin 300s. Okay, we're going to want to go to NAC3. One of the things we look for when we talk to a customer, let's say the boat's got twin 250s. Okay, one of the, I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but if there's a connector bar that connects the two motors, and we can lower the pump down a little bit. But what we like about the NAC3, yes, it's got more power into it, but it's also 183 and NEMA 2000. So if I'm trying to tap into an older setup where the customer's got a lot of 183 and some of the older cruiser boats, and I know we're not going to the sailboat tonight, but you will see a lot of 183 on the sailboat. It's a lot easy for the NAC3 because everything is a hard wire. Okay, it just gets a little bit more juice. We're gonna talk about pumps here next. So the majority of the boats that you're going to do, if you're in a West Marine, is going to be either a NAC2 or a NAC3. If we're trying to save old stuff, I would talk customer into going to a NAC3. If we're in that 33 foot down here in Florida, twins is considered a small boat because everything's quads, and you imagine down here. A lot of those boats we're going to be in NAC, and we're going to be setting them up with NAC3s. But at 250, you start getting to twin 3s, you're pushing up a little bit. So very simple. If you remember, we got the NAC2 and the NAC3. So when we get into the pumps, and here's where it changes. Now, the reason why I've given the pumps 2 names is up until this year, we had an RPU 80, RPU 116, and RPU 300. We have changed the names on them. We have a different company making our pumps now for us, and we're simply just calling them a pump 2, pump 3, pump 4. So the pump 2 will replace what an 80 was, a pump 3 would replace a 160, and a 4 would replace the 300. So where we get into the pumps, so if we're using an NAC2, we can run the RPU 80. But if we have to bump up to, or which is now the pump 2. But if we're gonna bump up to a pump 3, which means we're pumping heavier, motors, then we have to move up to the NAC3 computer. And one of the things that we look at, and the way this pump works, is I was talking about a connector bar. So in this middle picture right here, let's say these are twin, let's just say 200s, 250s, okay? They've got they may have one C-star pump here, but they've got a connector bar that connects these 2 motors together. So when this motor moves, this motor moves. We can get away with this setup right here, the pump 2, which means we could use the NAC 2 setup. But when you get into some of the crazier stuff, that let's say these are twin 300s, they're going to start, or you start to see that they've got a pump on each one. You got some of the motors out there where I can, you know, I can joystick drive where this motor will go one way, this motor will go the other. We need to be down in here. We need to be down in this, which means we go to NAC 3. So as you can see, your decision making's gotten pretty easy. Because we could sit here and teach this class, and when they teach it to the installers, it's an all-day class. I'm trying, you know, if you just keep it keep it simple, the pump will determine what brain we go with as well. So when we get into 3 motors and 4 motors, as you'll see down in here, Florida, we've got a 300, and we actually make one even bigger. So a lot of twin 250s, yeah, we're going to be here. We start to get to twin 300s, bigger boat, yeah, we're going to be down in here. This is just safer. Keep in mind what's different here in the tide. You know, we got wind, tide, current, boat speed. It's a little bit different. All those things we have to take into consideration when we pick out a pump. Nothing fancy about it. It's a hydraulic pump. It's got this line will go to a reservoir. You're going to be pumping fluid when the motor goes one way. You're going to be pumping fluid when it goes to the other, and then there's going to be return. So there's nothing really sophisticated about these style pumps. They've been around forever, just that we've changed the name on them. So that's a big part. Pumps, no, I mean, there's not really anything different. It's a 2-wire system. So if there's a pump in the boat right now and it works, the customer does not have to replace it. You can get anywhere from about $300 to $500 up to about $1,000 for some of these higher end pumps. This is can be an expensive. On a sailboat, it's even worse as far as price. So if we can keep that customer's pump, then we really only need to focus on a brain and then find out what kind of compass they have. So when we get into the heading sources, this where I've got circled is our Precision 9. Okay, you're going to see on older boats, if a customer says he's got an RC42, that was the compass that was on our boats before we came out a couple years ago with the Precision 9. So there's nothing wrong with it. If a customer's got an RC42 and it works, go with it. There's no difference in the setup. It's 183 and it's NEMA 2000. Notice I have this in red. We talked about this a little bit with radar last week. We call, you know, this is the 0.1 for Lowrance. You know, we have another name for it, the SIMRAD. This is not sufficient enough to work an autopilot. It will work in that first setup we had, the NAC 1, but will not work in our 2s and 3s. We need this. We need to know heading. We need to know rate of turn, where this is only a heading sensor here, this guy right here. I mean, it's great for radar overlay. So if you're doing a customer's boat and he's getting radar and an autopilot, remember we said if you sell radar, we should try to talk the customer into going to this so they can do radar overlay. But if they're doing an autopilot, this one guy right here, Precision 9, will do it all. So they will be able to do their radar overlay and do their heading, rate of turn, etc. So that's why this sells for about $600 and this sells for $299. So there is a difference in price. And then this also gives you MARPA tracking on your radar. These two guys above you, the HS60 and the HS70, these are external satellite compasses, and they're extremely expensive, $1,000 and more. They are self-calibrating. We do not have to calibrate them, and they go outside the boat. You know, and where we would use these is, for example, on very, very large boats or a boat that's got a lot of metal, your steel work boats, a lot of fire department boats. Because of all the metal, we will not be able to calibrate this compass, and I've got a slide on that later this evening. We won't be able to calibrate it because of all the interference from the metal of the boat, where this sits outside the boat and it will self-calibrate. They are extremely pricey. Again, they start at around $900 and go up. But this is going to be when we're working, you know, again, with someone with an all steel boat, where we see this a lot at West Marine. If the military comes in and buys something, your fire departments, and they run a lot of those metals, there's steel, 33-foot boats. We are not going to be able to calibrate this guy or this guy, but this is your best friend. Most of the time, everything we're going to do in an autopilot, you're going to be right here. And we'll talk about the bundles here in a second. The rotor feedback, we said for anything below deck, anything that's not an outboard motor. The RF25 is our best friend because anything that says NEMA 2000 means it's, for lack of better term, a plug and play. It's going to go right into our NEMA 2000 setup. And all this does is when we calibrate the steering, when we calibrate the helm, is we know where the rudder is. We set the far port, then we set it to far starboard, and then we set it to center. And that way, this feedback always tells us where the rudder is. Or if we've got motors below waterline and we can't see, we're an outboard, we can kind of see which way they go. So, and then we talked about the controllers. So we can control directly from the SIMRAD touchscreen. Okay. We can have the screen come up. So there is your autopilot icon right here, which brings this screen up as we showed you earlier. We can nav to, we can turn this knob here to change the heading. So right now this is 308. If I started turning this knob, this number would change 307, 306, 305, 304. And if I would go this way, I would change the heading of the boat and you would see the boat move. You can also touch these keys for 10° 1. And I have a standby, which puts the autopilot back in standby. In standby, that means you now have control of the wheel. With the outboard pilot setup, we said comes with that NAC 1. That's what this little red button for is, a standby. That's why on a SIMRAD Go, Vulcan is B&G, but SIMRAD Go, since we don't have the standby button, we need a control head to control to calibrate the autopilot. We can still, on a SIMRAD go here and hit autopilot and still have all those features. Well, we need a standby button to calibrate the autopilot. And these are your two that you'll see the most, the AP44 and the AP48. They're simple plug and play NEMA 2000. Again, notice the red standby button to put the autopilot in standby. Standby means you now have the vessel. Your hand should be on the wheel. You have the vessel. You've got your control knob here that you can set and turn your heading. So right now it's according, you're heading at 054. You can change it by turning these two knobs. Your modes is where you get into like no drift, standby. I want to hold the autopilot where it'll do a series of turns. It'll run S turns for us. Really good when I'm trolling. So you have two control. These are the two main control heads that you'll see. And again, you have a control knob and you have a standby. One's a little bit bigger than the other one. We sell more of these than anything, and more, I'd say in a lot of the bigger boats, commercial boats, offshore boats, they might like this. The boats that you guys are going to see in the West, this is the one you'll see the most of, the AP44. You will see these guys out there are IS-42s in both SIMRAD and B&G. This is a popular setup for a sailboat. They will have on the port helm or the starboard helm one of these guys and one of these guys beside each other. But notice you're missing your standby button. Okay. These are great to go. You can put these, you'll see guys put these up in the inside of the T-top. So when they're sitting in their chair, they can reach up directly above their head and put the autopilot on or go in standby. Notice you've got your 10° 1° port, 10° 1° starboard. Again, this is a simple NEMA 2000 drop. There's a couple places throughout the boat you may want to put these, or you could put it side by side with one of these IS-42 gauges. Again, remember the big thing from the autopilot is it does not have the standby button. That standby button is important when we're calibrating. Yes, there are some what we call joystick controls. follow-up units where I can engage the autopilot by hitting the joystick, hitting the lever. One thing that is popular out here is this WR10 remote. So this is a Bluetooth remote that you can wear this around the boat. Notice it's very simple. It's got a standby mode and auto. So I can put the boat in auto, I can put it in standby, and each time I click the red button, that's one port, and each time I click the green is one starboard. Really good if I'm by myself on the boat and I want to, I can move the grid. Our sailboaters love this. It's a really good device. While we're talking about wireless remote Bluetooth, we're all familiar that we can Wi-Fi to a phone and to a tablet. We've done that for years, and you can control your SIMRAD screen and your Lowrance screen, and you can mark waypoints and everything. One thing you cannot do from your iPad or your phone is control the autopilot. You'll see that that button is blacked out. So when you mirror your phone or your iPad, you can't run the autopilot. The only thing that we can do is with this, you can have this little key fob. Then the WR10 is popular. This is just a Bluetooth antenna. Put it up wherever we can get signal. And this goes into the NEMA 2000 drop. And then you have your little key fob that you wear. Right? It comes with a lanyard that you can wear. So in System Builder, we have system packs ready to go for you. So this is a core kit. So if a person's looking to set up an all-new autopilot setup, okay, and they want a control head, they have it here. So this is the NAC2 setup, which we call a medium capacity. Here is the NAC3. It's already in System Builder. So they've got a control head, they've got the brain, they've got the compass, they've got the NEMA to hook it up, and they've got a pump. So this is a great setup, but it's missing one thing if this is going to be a non-outboard motor. And who can give me that answer real quick?
It needs a rudder feedback if it's a non-outboard below decks motor.
Absolutely. So that would be one piece you would have to go back. A great answer. Thank you. That would be one piece you would have to go back and add. So if this was above deck, just with outboard motors, this would work fine. So you got a NAC2 and a NAC3. Okay.
I got a question on that real quick. What about an inboard outboard?
If you don't have outboard, you need a rudder feedback.
Okay, regardless. All right.
Yep. All right. So these are your core packs that are in there for the NAC2 and NAC3. So there's a couple differences here. The first two are NAC2 and NAC3, and now you see what's there. There is your rudder feedback sensor. If you look at the NAC2 and the NAC3 core pack here, you notice we don't have a rudder feedback sensor. So this is for the customer that he may have another brand of autopilot on the boat. He may have a whole new, he just went to a SIMRAD screen. I'd like to bring my old autopilot over. Well, if his pump is good and still working, all we do is we just sell this kit to him without the pump there. There's no pump now. So if it's a below deck setup, here's your rudder feedback sensors. Okay, if it's outboard motors, he can get away with basically just this. I try to get him in a new compass only because I know, especially if they say this is it's a 183 or it's even before NEMA 183, we have a very hard time bringing those systems over. And the Precision 9 compass, this is a very sensitive compass. It is very sensitive and to the point. So if they're going to invest that kind of money and set an autopilot up, they ought to have, at least in electronics, a brand new heading sensor. Again, pumps are pumps. They're pumping fluid one way, they're pumping fluid another, and they're going into a reservoir. But so these are core packs that are already set in your System Builder for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump out of this screen here for a second. I'm going to try to jump out of this screen, and I'm going to go into my System Builder. And I hope everybody can still see my system builder. So this is System Builder. And in your System Builder, you will see that there's all your system packs. So we go over to Autopilot. You can see where there's just the computers, the controllers. There's just your pumps. But I want to show you that you guys have access to this in System Builder. It's called Assistant. So you're working with the customer, and the customer, we're going to talk about his boat. So he's got a motorboat. We're going to say outboard. We're going to say he's got hydraulic. We're going to say his boat's 33 feet. And it wants to know the ram capacity. That's so most sea stars are around 23 cubic inches. So then if we hit next, and then it wants our volts, our battery volt is 12 volt. We're going to run one battery. So right off the bat, it's recommending we want an Act 3 autopilot, and it's given us two options, so we could put, the 160 or the 300. So my question would be for the customer in that situation, what motors? So if he's saying they're twin 300s, okay, we'll go with these guys. This is going to help us pick the autopilot setup. And then we need our Precision 9 compass. And do we need a controller for the guy? The guy might want a controller. So we'll put a controller and next. And now we have the complete autopilot set for that customer. So this is a pretty cool thing that that's in System Builder that was added the beginning. I believe it was the beginning of this year. This will help you make a little bit better judgment, a little bit better decision when you're picking out an autopilot, if you know that information from the customer. But if you just kind of remember that 33-foot, 250 horsepower in there, twins is kind of your split line, you're going to be pretty close anyway. You're going to be pretty good. And with autopilots, do not be afraid to get your TM on the phone. If you want, you can call me. If it's during the week, get tech support. There's all kind of support. So please don't think you're out there all on your own. There's not one of us that hasn't had a question or two about an autopilot at one time or another, because there's always something we've never seen before, and that one customer happens to have it. So, but this is a pretty good tool that you can go to help pick out. So again, on your System Builder, it's under Assistant. These were the system packs that I was showing you earlier. And then when you go into the pumps, so there's your pump 2. Again, when you click on it, there's all your details, how much they cost. So you can see the price. That's just the pump 2 is $850. You get into those 300, which is now the pump 4. You can see you're getting into a $1,400 pump. And this is where we want to really have that serious conversation with the customer, because some of these customers have done their homework and they've looked online. Well, that's a $1,400 pump. Well, my boat's big, but it's not that big. Why can't I go here? And we really got to have that serious conversation with them that we need this to be spec'd just right. This is something they don't want to be nickel and diming, because one certain pump, if it's all, this pump won't work with an Act 2, and if he's running twin 3s, he's gonna have trouble when he's really out there kicking it into gear, and he's got a lot of wind and he's got a lot of current working against him. And I've been in these discussions. Well, I know I can cut we're not going to cut corners. If we have to make a decision, I'm always going to err on the side, and I'm going to, if that computer will hold it, I'm going to go to the bigger pump just so he's got that juice, if we're right in that decision. This is, again, an area we do not want to compromise on. This pump here, this is the drive. This is what's driving that rudder. This is what's driving that motor. But again, everything in here, you click on it, it's good to see what comes in the box. This is what comes in the box. Connectors. Very good setup. And as I told you guys last week, for you guys that have, I know you all have System Builder through your ProStaff portal, but for you guys that have iPads, If you go on to iTunes and get your UDI number or let me know you want it, I'll send you a form to fill out and I will set this up on your iPad for you. So when you're walking around at a West Marine, you have access. West Marine also has access to System Builder on their computers as well. But I'd be glad to set this up for you guys on your iPads so that you can have it in the stores instead of not having to be in front of the computer all the time for you. But again, this is your friend when you're out there. Your System Builder is your friend. I'm going back to share my screen one last time here with autopilots. And we should see the system. So you guys, after tonight, Steph's going to be sending you copies of these PowerPoints. In there, you're going to see that I have a couple cheat sheets here for you. It's the same ones that all of us use. You know, NAC1, what goes with what can you use when you're picking out stuff? So this is your drive and computer selection. This one is what pilot heads will work, you know, what will work. So you guys are going to get full access to this. So you guys may get questions in the store about some of our, what I call some of the extreme setups. So one off the bat you might see is Mercury. Mercury has their joystick. You know, now one of the things that's good with Mercury is we make a lot of the Mercury SmartCraft and all that. And if they've got this type of a setup in the boat already, our autopilot will NEMA 2000 right off of this. Okay, we can come, if they've got the SmartCraft in here, we can come in and we can read. You will see this a lot at Bass Pro Shops. A lot of those Makos, you know, the one I was on the other day in Florida, just looking at it on the showroom floor, had one of these on it. And one of the boats we drove 2 years ago at Bass Pro University had this setup where we're basically tapping into the SmartCraft. Okay, that's one you will see. One that's really popular out on the market is the Optimus, Optimus 360. Okay, and there is a piece we need where this is coming from the factory, and it's already set up where we just need a simple SGO5 to tap into it. And we'll have a compass, but there's no need for a drive unit. There's no need for rudder feedback. The Optimus setup comes already. We have a piece in System Builder called an SGO5 that just plugs into the NEMA 2000 backbone, and we can tap into that. So if a customer says, I have Optimus 360, and again, if you have questions, get one of us on the phone, your TM, we can talk you through it. And you guys will have the slides, you'll have the part numbers, and you'll be able to show these pictures. Yes, I know this is a little intimidating, but when we just need one simple piece for this, if we know that boat is equipped, where we're not having to build complete setups. Helm Master gets a little tricky. This changes, it seems, every year. If you do have that customer that says he's got a, Helm Master, get one of us on the phone. We'll talk you through this one. But it is, we're basically coming in with an SGO5 for Helm Master, and there could be a couple other pieces. Again, just get one of us on the phone, and we will talk you through this. I don't want you to get too intimidated on Yamaha's Helm Master, because I got to be honest, there's a couple of us that are, still not experts on this yet, but it is a extremely popular system, especially in the newer boats that are being built right now. But once we know what's on that boat and how Helm Master came to the customer, then we know what they need, what pieces they would need. And same thing if we're dealing with some of the Volvo Pinto parts, and some of their, it's just, we call it an SGO5 gateway. Really, all we're selling them is this SGO5 gateway right here. Once we know that there's an autopilot gateway on the boat. So if the boat had an autopilot before, let's say it had another brand and the autopilot worked, it's kind of a safe assumption that there was a gateway on there. We just need this SGO5 gateway. So I'll go back to my system builders real quick here and show you where those guys are. Oops, on the wrong one there. Hold on. Same thing up here into the I had him here. I had him in system packs. No, I had him. Where did I have my computers? That era. So these are the pieces. Like there is the gateway. As you can see, that's why I tell you, ask for some help, because they needed the whole thing. This is the whole gateway. Where if we just need the SG05, it's nowhere near as expensive. If we can get away with just the SG05. So we really need to know what they already have on the boat first. Again, that cuts the price down in half if we go with just the SG05. But if it's something, they need everything, then there's what we've got. And they're all in here. They're all in here under your computers. Again, don't let this get intimidated, and don't feel that you have to answer this for the customer. There is a lot of us that will help you with this. I don't get hit too hard with this at West. I'd say maybe 10% of the time are you going to get hit with this. The majority of the time for you guys at West Marine, you're going to get hit with system packs. And if you understand the system packs, you're going to have 80% of the autopilot systems down. Don't let this stuff scare you. There's plenty of us. There's plenty of people 25 times smarter than us here that can talk us through what comes with what. Some of this gets into the new boat builder stuff. Again, I would worry about more your core packs. This is where our business is at West Marine, right here. And again, we got plenty of people to help you if you need help with any of those GO5s. So we talked about the compass, our Precision 9 compass. It should go down in the boat somewhere where there's not going to be a lot of interference. We want to try to get them down around the water line. We don't want to try to get them anywhere where there's interference, up around the radars or anything like that, or try to get us away from metal. I know we got to be careful down here in some of these boats, because they've got bilge pumps and God knows what down there, but a nice place like this is a very good place to put it, dead center of the boat. The compass is calibrated by going out on the water, just like we would do a 0.1 or a GS25. We do two 360-degree circles, and that's how we calibrate the compass. I want to show you this picture. And then also in some of the videos that we recommended, there is a video on SIMRAD Live done by Sean Edmonds on how to calibrate your autopilot. And I highly encourage you to watch that. It is an awesome video. He's actually out on the water calibrating an autopilot. But the way autopilots are done, it's done in two stages. The dockside calibration followed by the sea trial. It has to be, obviously, we can't go to sea trial without doing dockside. So dockside is where we set, like you heard me earlier, we set the wheel to port, set the rudder to port, then we set it to starboard, make sure we've got enough pump power in the pump that it's moving the rudder, and then we go out on the water and we calibrate. I'm not going to get too much into that tonight, but we do dockside first before we do sea trial. And then one of the first things we do is when we get out on the sea trial is right here, we calibrate that compass. So when we're talking to our customers, they need to calibrate. And if they're using a certified installer, they may calibrate it for them. But in order for us to get to this stage, the sea trial, we have to have done the dockside part first. Again, where's the compass go is pretty important there. With the Precision 9, it can go vertical or horizontal. We can go either way, as long as this line right here is facing toward the front of the boat. That's all we need. Or the old RC-42 kind of had one way it could go, when there is an arrow on it. Same arrow that you would see on top of a Precision 9 or a GS25 or a 0.1. Our biggest concern, as long as we have the arrow facing forward on that. So in closing, and then we'll go ahead and take questions. in System Builder, I would worry about your core packs. I would, to make this simple, remember there are 4 pieces to an autopilot. 3 main pieces. We need a brain, we need a pump, and we need something for heading. If it's not an outboard motor, then we need a rudder feedback. And then the question to the customer is, do they want to control it from their SIMRAD screen, or do they want to control it from the autopilot control head, or both? If they're using a Go unit, they have to have a control head. Now, if we're tapping in from an older setup that's 183, we would rather them be in a SIMRAD Evo, because at Evo, we can do 183 and 2000 conversion when you're starting to tap into older products. Remember your core packs. And they're in System Builder for you. Again, if this is outboard motor, here is your AP, here is your NAC 2 setup, here is your NAC 3. If this is not an outboard setup, I just need to add a rudder feedback. This is a complete autopilot setup ready to go. If we are retrofitting, in other words, we're going to save the customer's pump, then these are your NAC 2 and NAC 3 here with rudder feedback. Here is your NAC 2 and your NAC 3 without the rudder feedback, because this is going to be for an outboard. Folks, if you remember those 2 screens, 80% of the autopilot questions you will be perfectly fine on. Again, it's very easy to get lost in the weeds on autopilot. Keep it to its simplest form. Know those questions that we brought up tonight. Just ask those same questions. How big's the boat? What do you have for motors? And how do you intend to control the autopilot? And with that, you're going to be perfectly fine out there with autopilots. You've got help. Call me, call your territory manager during the week. If it's during business hours, go ahead and get customer service on the phone. Tell them who you are and what you're working with. They'll be glad to walk you through it as well. You'll find within too much time, you'll start to hear the same questions all the time, and you're going to be able to have answers a little bit better for them. But don't guess. Please, if you have any doubt on this, get somebody on the phone. We are here to help you with this. So now that we're going to open this up for questions on autopilot. So I'll go ahead and go up to the screen. What do we have for questions so far out there?
I have 2 questions. Oops, I had 2 questions. Number 1, you showed the AP44 necessary with a Go unit. Could an OP12 do the same thing at half the price? Hello?
I'm sorry, I was on mute. There we go. Sorry about that. No, we need to calibrate an autopilot. We need that red standby button.
Right, but I'm saying, will the OP12 do that rather than an AP44?
No, we need a 44 or 48.
Okay, and my second question is on I get a lot of people with old autopilot systems that are 0183, and I know there's devices to convert to NEMA 2000. Would they be able to get all the functionality on the SIMRAD screen with the 0183, or do they lose some of the functionality?
We can come over with 183 or 2000. Okay, and there are some 183 to 2000 kits. For example, why I like doing it on an Evo 3 is because we can put that video cable on the back, which we can convert we can convert an NEMA 183 over. Where you want to be careful is when we're tapping into some of the older autopilots, especially like from our competition out there, where we won't be able to do all the features. So in other words, if we're going to tap another person's autopilot into our SIMRAD screen, we might not get all the features where, like, I can touch the screen and make a couple routes and it will follow it. But what I can do is touch the SIMRAD screen and make a waypoint, and then go to the control head of the autopilot and say nav 2, because we can, we can bring certain features. So if I'm talking to a customer that has a competition autopilot on the boat, but's now switching to SIMRAD, I need to have that conversation with them that, okay, I can do this now, but you do want down the road our Navico autopilot computer, or NAC 2 or NAC 3, because you're not going to get all the features of touching the screen and, controlling from the SIMRAD screen. You're going to have to go back to your control head to control the autopilot. The only thing you're going to get from the SIMRAD from that 183 is going to be heading.
Right.
So
Okay.
that is a very good conversation to have with your customer, and an upsell to upsell that customer into going to our autopilot.
Yeah, and that's usually the conversation I have. Sometimes they just don't want to spend that much money and they want to keep using the autopilot. So that's basically what I've told them with these other brand autopilots. That answers my questions. Thank you.
No, very, very good question. You will hear that question a lot, and we're just being honest with you. Yeah, there are certain things I can save for you, but I can't. You're not going to get all the features. A lot of times you're just going to get the basic heading. But if that works for you this year, hey, you made a very big investment in radar and SIMRAD and a SIMRAD screen this year. Maybe next year we'll talk about moving that autopilot up.
That's good.
Okay, what other questions do we have out there? I know it's intimidating. I know it's a lot. This is a lot.
I know you didn't cover it tonight, but I deal with a lot of sailboaters with quadrant steering, and linear drives are required. Are you going to be doing another training session that might be more specific to that? Because for me, that's where it gets kind of.
Yeah, I didn't want to get into B&G tonight. This is introductory to SIMRAD and introductory to getting some more guys. For the sailboaters, we can do something specific on the sailboat, because we get into the linear rams, we get into the HLDs, you're getting into the length of the ram. I wanted to keep this just focused on SIMRAD tonight.
Right. And I didn't mean for you to answer it tonight. I was just asking to have it in a future presentation.
Absolutely. Steph, I can't see the chat room I'm looking for. Are there any questions that we've missed or come up in there?
Let's see. John Kaiser asks, at this point, why don't we allow Lowrance to run the SIMRAD autopilots as we have done with the radars?
Sometimes you can, like when we were talking about that Mercury, if we're coming off of the Mercury, if we're coming off of that smart craft, or if we're coming off of that gauge, we can, so we can use that joystick. I'm not sure what the actual reason why we can't 100% do it. I'll get a better answer for you on why we're not doing it on the Lowrance. I will get a better answer for you on that one.
That was the only question that we had that wasn't answered already.
Okay, I do see someone's hand up.
Gary Malin.
Hey, am I in there now?
Yes, we got you.
Right. On the Go series, you do have the capability. Let me mute my phone here. It's getting it both ways. On the Go series, I found out through doing a little work on one that if you put in an NEP2, you can actually run an autopilot on both if you're running twin Go series, and it eliminates the button because you can use the other screen.
Yes, there are ways to do it, but one of the terms that we like to use that's taught to us from some of our installer trainers is what we call a compliant and a non-compliant system. Can it be done? Yeah, there are things that we can do with the Go that's not actually in the book, where there are things that we can do, but it's not how we designed the system. So yeah, we can finagle a couple things around, but we, as sales guys, want to try to make sure we're putting out there the right configuration for the right setup. We designed this product to do A and B. There are conversations that we would have with guys experienced like yourself and professional installers. Okay, if you get into this situation, okay, you could do C, D, E, and F, but we try to promote what we designed it for first. So yeah, you're absolutely right. There are ways to work the system, but as a sales guy, let's make sure we're trying to promote it as we designed it. But very good point. You're right. You can.
All right, and we got another question. How is the best way to reset the autopilot after the Go 5 has failed and been replaced? He has an Optimus system.
That would be a tech question. I don't have that answer right off the top. That would be one we would want to run through the tech guys at the desk. Sorry, I don't have a better answer on that one for you, but it's a very good question to during the day let them guys know or ask those guys.
Or send an email. Their email address is in our handbook that everybody received at the beginning of the year, if you don't want to call in.
Right. Because again, I want to kind of keep this on the topic more around selling autopilot and not more into tech services, more how to sell, how to present this to a customer. So yeah, that would be one I would definitely run to tech.
That's all we have in the chat.
All right. Any other questions from anybody? Tried to make this again as an introductory to radar last week, autopilot this week. They are the big things you'll see with SIMRAD. So we sell a SIMRAD unit. Now they have the option for autopilot, and now they have the option for radar. Radar is not as difficult to sell as we can see autopilot. That's why I wanted to at least do something introductory tonight that make you guys feel a little bit comfortable, because a lot of you are starting to go into West Marine locations, and I'm just going to help you get a little more comfortable with that. Again, ask the question: the size of the boat, the type of the motors, where you're going to be boating, and you should have a pretty good idea that we've narrowed it down between a NAC 2 and a NAC 3, and you should be all right. The tech questions, just when we have those questions, as you evolve and learn more about autopilot, some of them you'll be able to you'll have an answer for. Others, that's why we have our customer service. We can get the customer on with our tech services guys, and they can answer that question and get the customer the best decision that we can make for them. So with that, I think what we'll do is, if there's no questions, we'll go ahead and wind this down for tonight. I appreciate the effort that's gone into this. We're starting, again, as I've said before, SIMRAD is a big driving point for us. We need to get a lot more PROSTAFF visits into our West Marine locations. And part of that is getting more and more training on the SIMRAD product line, and what all that we have to offer. For the month of December, we've already got training scheduled for the 4th. That's going to be around Lowrance product rollout. And then I think our next training session that we'll pick up on with VHF radios. We're going to get in a habit of doing something once a month, at a minimum of once a month, of these type of training sessions. For you guys, if there's anything that you would like training on, please send it in to Steph or myself. I'll be glad to put some training together for you, or even get one of our product experts to do some training. For the Lowrance training next month, it's going to be Jeremiah, who's our Lowrance product expert, who's going to be doing next month's training. Well, I want to get us back, get trained. Training's the key. Knowledge is power. And, the more comfortable you are understanding our product, the more comfortable you're going to be out in the stores. And that's kind of our goal here. With that, go around the room one last time.
Mike Pentney, do you have another question?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. No, it's the end. But real quickly, the name escapes me, but we had a new device come out to integrate with the autopilot. I think that allows you to change course while the autopilot's engaged. I don't see it in System Builder.
Stand by a second. I will send that out with everybody. There is a new device that's out. It's not on your System Builders, but it is on our Navico internal site. So I will get that. I will send you out the information on that. I do have that. So when Steph sends out these slides, I'll make sure you have that piece as well.
Okay, thanks.
It's for me to dig through. It's going to take another 5-10 minutes to put that up, and I apologize for leaving that out of the autopilots. That's a new device that just got released.
Right. No worries. Thank you.
All right. Everybody, holidays are coming up. The first part of our holidays. Hope every one of you have a great holiday. Get some time, enjoy the family. Thanks for all the hard work that you guys have done for us. This has been an interesting year, bar none. And I appreciate all the effort. We're going to have a busy December, as you guys are starting to find out. And it's going to kick right into January and February. And that's at Bass Pro, Cabela's, West Marine. We're watching the COVID, but we're going at it as hard as we can. And I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of you guys stepping in some West Marines and getting into the SIMRAD world. It's a lot of fun. Love having you guys. It's been a pleasure working with you guys and looking forward to what we got coming for the next year. And again, we're going to get into these once or twice a month training sessions that we can all get together and open up a book and learn something together. I learned something from you guys just as much as you learn from our tech guys. It's good hearing what you guys have. I love reading your reports. Please send me pictures in your reports, whatever, and write as much as you want. I enjoy. That's my Sunday evenings, is reading all your ProStaff reports. So with that, everybody have a good night. Thanks for joining us tonight, and we will get these slides out to everybody. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.